because we have a very special guest coming up here. And in order to introduce him, I'm going to bring up my colleague, Chris Lunday, our defense reporter, who is going to keep you enraptured over the next 20 minutes over this conversation. So please, welcome to the stage. Thank you. Some applause.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us at the Politico Speakeasy here at the POLITIco. My name is Chris Lunday. I'm a defense reporter for Politico, based in Berlin, and this is very fitting because joining me on stage is Lieutenant General Michael Vetter, the Director General for Cyber and Chief Information Officer at the German Defense Ministry. Thank you very much for joining us. We're very glad to have you here. I want to start with kind of a big picture question, just to kind of get things rolling on where we are in Germany, capture the zeitgeist, or the Zeitwende. Germany is kind of waking up to this new role in defense leadership in Europe, and for the first time in years, the Bundeswehr has this kind of financial framework that can allow for real transformation, which I think impacts your job and your plan specifically. So I want to get an idea from your perspective, what has been changing the most at a time when money is really not the restraint anymore?
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much for having me. Delighted to be here at the Speakeasy. Yeah, it's good to have money at our disposal. However, only throwing money on the problem will probably not be part of the solution. I think we have to differentiate. When we started with this 100 billion extra package that the former Chancellor Olaf Scholz kindly and graciously provided us with, those 100 billion euro were important primarily to fill the gaps. 25 years of underspending, 25 years of reprioritizing meant that we had lots of gaps and empty structures in the Bundeswehr, and with those 100 billion, we were able to at least initiate the process of filling those gaps. For me, as the Chief Information Officer, the good thing was that I got about 20 billion euros out of this 100 billion package, and we used this to really build up our digital backbone, starting with the infrastructure in Germany, with modern AI-capable data centers, including the strategic communications with, for example, satellite communication, deployable CIS, and also improving the tactical edge, so to the down to the last infantry soldier with this digital radio. And this was the first part. Now that we have a sustained financial line, which gives us more leeway, the second stage will be then to make sure we are war ready by the end of this decade, and then develop our armed forces to become technological superior armed forces by 2035, and then continue this development until the end of the next decade. So we will never stop becoming more innovative, and we must make sure not only to spend the money on legacy equipment, but we also must look at the lessons learned from Ukraine. We must look at the technological imperatives that are around us with autonomy, with AI, with miniaturization, and then take the right decisions to make the Bundeswehr technological at the edge in order to cope with all possible contingency that will come over time.
So starting with the point of AI, it is really important, I think, for Europe and also for Germany as well. This impacts your job immensely. NATO and allies are kind of moving to that kind of, they're moving fast on that kind of Palantir-style AI-enabled battlefield systems, while Germany is a lot more cautious. I think the Interior Ministry has been a bit more cautious with this product in particular because of sovereignty, data, and dependency concerns. So NATO still has kind of, via the Maven Smart system, given Palantir the contract last year, and reportedly it was given on a very fast procurement timeline. So I kind of want to understand a bit better, does Germany need battle-proven AI systems now, even if they come from the US, from a vendor like Palantir, or is technological sovereignty more important on the priority?
I don't think that this is a black or white decision. So let's start with Maven and NATO. Secure took the decision to use Maven as the data integration platform. And actually, what does this mean for Germany? Currently, the Maven system uses the data that all nations are providing NATO through what they call the NATO functional area subsystem. So even today, even without Maven, we provided NATO German data for those functional area systems, and this will not change. So from a data sovereignty point, the use of Maven in NATO doesn't affect our national data sovereignty at any point. So it's okay. Second point, we must make sure that those German command entities which have to work with NATO get access to this tool. And we're currently looking with NCIA what will be the right consequences, how do we do this in practical terms, period. Data sovereignty also means that on the national and I would say on a European standpoint, we also have to develop data integration platforms at a European scale, because then I would allow this platform to get access to data which I don't give in a NATO functional area system as of such. So currently the Maven system will not get German raw data, only let's say data which we provided to NATO voluntarily. So we need both. We need to maintain the access to the NATO command system. We are an alliance, we have to fight as an alliance. But in the second stage, we have to develop more sovereign solutions to make better use of our data. You know, in the AI talk, everyone's talking about AI, and AI is cool, and we need to have AI. There are only few people talking about data. But if you don't have your data in order, you will not really make best use of what AI can give you as an option.
Isn't that kind of the question, though, at the same time? I mean, most of the data that you're receiving, or the best battlefield data that you could be receiving is coming from Ukraine. I think that's the most obvious example that's out there. And you don't have that much coming from that's really fitted to your own forces. So how do you manage that right now, kind of adjusting what is already happening on the ground to what you need in the MOD?
Well, actually, I guess any army or every army in the world is looking what's going on globally and tries to collect the necessary data they need for their further development. And this is what we're doing in Germany as well. So we have very, very close interlinks with our Ukrainian friends. They share their experiences on the battlefield, and we bring them into our doctrinal thinking, but also into our capability development. So I would say this is a process which is up and running. The second point is that all the vast amount of our national data, HR data, logistics data, there we must become better to integrate those data lakes with data integration platforms using AI in order to have a better informed basis for decision making. Let me highlight maybe one point. If we want to successfully deter any aggression, if deterrence fails and we have to fight, I think what we need to establish as NATO and as the German military, we need to establish escalation dominance. What do I mean by this? We must make sure we have information dominance. We see the enemy before he sees us. And especially we must make sure that out of this vast bulk of data that we are surrounded by, we take out and select the relevant information. Second, we have to translate this information dominance into the decision dominance. We have to decide faster and better. And in the act, you need effects dominance. You need to have the right effector. This could be a political effect, this could be a kinetic effect, it could be a cyber effect, in order to make sure that there are no sanctuaries for our enemies that they can hide in. So we must be able to build up this triad, and therefore we need digitization, therefore we need AI support, but first of all, we need data.
Yeah, I just kind of want to get a better understanding. I mean, maybe a bit of a simple question, but where are you looking to procure for your battlefield systems when it comes to data processing? Is there a certain preference in one way or the other? Just so that I understand this a little bit better, where they're being procured.
Well, what you're touching on is the question of digital sovereignty.
Yeah.
And then I think there are a couple of thousand definitions of digital sovereignty. Our definition for digital sovereignty is that the German armed forces can take the decisions they take without unwanted and unhindered influence by third parties. So therefore, when I talk about digital sovereignty, I never talk about digital autarky. There are so many features where we have either Chinese or American supporters, so we will probably not use the Chinese one. So we will have our American partners, which are good partners, which are reliable partners in the platforms. However, we also need to have, in certain parts of our inventory, sovereign solutions. What do I mean by this? This whole notion of cryptology, for example. There I want to have either European or even only German providers, and we must make sure also with industry policy to develop a German and European ecosystem that guarantees that we will have those providers today and for the foreseeable future. And therefore we are really active in starting with multi-vendor activities, also granting some of our tenders to German or to European companies in order to to make sure that this ecosystem exists and this ecosystem is also able to grow.
But does that rule out, for example, Palantir from the German MOD policy line?
It doesn't exclude Palantir. But actually, what I don't like is to talk about single companies. And therefore, what is the capability that a company could offer, and does this capability fit into our system, and how does the solution really looks like? Can I work with the solution in a sovereign place, or do I have the risk of unwanted interference if I put this solution into my inventory?
Yep.
So rather than talking about systems, talking about criteria to make sure, does it fit in my strategy? Does it fit in my architecture? Is it a solution where I'm the one in the end to decide, and then we can take the decision?
So, I mean, using AI is one thing. There's also a threats landscape that is on the other side of the equation with AI. You know, when you look at the security environment, where do you see the most immediate military danger from AI? Is it cyber attacks, disinformation, deep fakes, reconnaissance issues, targeting, manipulation of data? Where's the kind of biggest thing that keeps you up at night?
Actually, I think we have to go maybe 2 steps back and say, what is the future operating environment? What is the environment that we have to work in? NATO ACT framed a couple of years ago the future operating environment with 3 criteria. And one is, it is persistent, and this is actually what we're seeing, the persistent of big power competition rather than globalization. The second one, it is simultaneous. We have to live with countries that are our partner in economy, that are our competitors on the global market, that are our strategic rivals with regard to the democratic systems, and especially in the cyber and information domain, that act as our adversaries. So, and therefore the answer cannot only be military. And the third, and this is probably especially for those in uniform, the most complicated one, it is boundless. So the delineation between peace, crisis, and war is blurred. The question, is this interior security and therefore a question for the police force, or is it external security and therefore the military? Hard to detect, especially in cyberspace. So how do we cope with these blurred lines? And we see that especially the cyber and information domain plays an increasing role in this picture, be it by traditional cyber attacks, ransomware attacks, DDoS attacks, increasingly disinformation activities. And AI, I would say, multiplies this challenge because the attacks are getting faster, the attacks are getting more sophisticated, and especially in the disinformation bit, I guess this poses an increasing challenge for us. So what is the solution? Give up? Probably not. So the solution must be also to use those tools to increase or to augment our inventory in order to cope with those challenges and find the proper response to those challenges.
So when we come down to kind of the mix between human control and military AI, and AI is moving closer into military decision making with the adversaries also here. Where does Germany draw the line on human control? Is there anything about this development that may concern you?
Yep. Well, I would say to a certain extent I'm concerned. On the other side, I see the huge options and the huge opportunities that we can get in order to implement and maintain this escalation dominance notion. On the German notion, we've issued a couple of weeks ago our strategic conception on AI, and this strategic concept of AI describes how we want to use AI in the German military or in the German Bundeswehr, which is more than the military, also the civilian parts. We have basically 3 lines of operation. The first, the use of AI in the military realm. So how can we use AI to establish and maintain escalation dominance? The second one is how can we use AI to tame the bureaucratic monster that we tend to be from time to time. And the third one is probably the most important one, it's culture and people. Because you cannot implement AI against the people, you must have the people at your side when you're trying to implement AI solutions. We've implemented a governance on AI. We are very actively working also at the international stage in the issue of how can we describe and how can we norm the responsible use of AI in the military. Because for me it's crystal clear that we will not make use of all the options that technology will bring us in due term. It also must cope with our legal framework, it must cope with our values, with our self-esteem as a democratic state. Having said that, we are actively also in implementing AI solutions for the military, especially for ISR purposes, but also to shorten what you may call the effects chain or the kill chain. So from object recognition to decision support to engagement. Mm-hmm. However, for kill decisions, we will always have the human either on the loop, in the loop, or at least on the loop, meaning, let's say, tactical ballistic missile defense, when you have those really short reaction times, we must make sure that our operators are trained in a way that they can assess and understand what the algorithm or how the algorithm will react.
Work. I'd like to get your thoughts on the fact that, on the other side of the government, that, the Interior Ministry has said that Germany and Israel would expand cybersecurity cooperation and develop they brand it as like a cyber dome, right? Mm-hmm. Kind of leaning towards the idea of the Iron Dome. But if Germany is building a national cybersecurity shield, or a cyber shield for critical infrastructure, how does the military plug into that?
First of all, we are not the first line of defense. So first line of defense in cybersecurity we are all in this room, especially the operators of critical infrastructure. However, the German Ministry of Defense and the Bundeswehr are fully integrated into our cybersecurity architecture. What do I mean by this? In Berlin, at ministerial level, together with the Ministry of Interior, the Foreign Office, and the Federal Chancellery, MOD is also framing cyber policy. Both at the national level, at the European level, and at the international level. International level, especially how do we norm the use of military or offensive action in cyberspace. Second, at the operational level, our cyber command is fully integrated in our national cyber response center, and the Bundeswehr is providing 24/7 our cyber situational picture to the cyber response center. And the Bundeswehr is also capable of providing offensive cyber support if needed. Until recently, Germany was very, let's say, hesitant in using active cyber defense means. So we get attacked from a foreign aggressor. We can attribute the aggressor to a solid state, and then we are also able to act against such an aggressor. And now the MOI is framing a legislation that will enable German security institutions also to use those active cyber defense measures.
I wanted to ask about that, if that's okay. Because, the topic or the main debate that came out of that, and you've kind of hinted at this, is the idea of using offensive cyber towards adversaries. How do you think the doctrine should actually look about that for Germany? They were very reserved. They're moving in that direction, but it's not completely organized within your house or within the MOD. Yeah. How do you see the ideal doctrine for cyber offense?
I don't see it that it must only nest in the MOD. So we have the Federal Criminal Police, we have the Federal Police. They have all capabilities, and we must also look: is this, let's say, more a criminal act, or can it be seen also as an aggressive act by a state against us? So we need the whole variety of instruments. With regard to the military, currently when we are on operations that have parliament approval, as soon as we are entitled to use military force, we are in principle also entitled to use offensive cyber means. There are certain processes to grant an offensive cyber option, but basically we can do this. When it comes to military conflict, we are entitled to use everything which is entitled by the law of international conflict, including offensive cyber operations.
Is that valid now, though, with Russia, for example? Because they're doing this to us every single day.
Sure, but for us, the legal boundary is, are we really in a state of a war with Russia, or are we not? So therefore, we need this active cyber defense means where we can use a situation where we haven't declared a war, but we know that we've been attacked, and we are as sure as we can be that we could probably identify the attacker and that we have the means to get after the attacker, which is also not easy. And in that case, I guess Germany needs to have the ability to act against such an attacker. Whether we do it is a totally different story, because it always depends what might be the strategic effect of such an active cyber measure. And I'm also not arguing that we will use this day after day after day after day, but my notion is, if deterrence in cyberspace will work, we also must be able to show any adversary that there are no sanctuaries. And if we can get you in cyberspace, we have the means to do it. Whether we do it is a totally different question.
Well, Lieutenant General Feta, I see the time is running out, unfortunately. I would love to keep you here for a few hours, actually. I'm a real nerd in this topic, so I love it so much. But thank you so much for joining us here at the Politico Speakeasy, and thanks to all of you here in the room, everybody in the live stream as well. We'll be back at 1:30 with